Now, sometimes, just quickly, before we go into the different phases, it's really important to realise that I've got a real bugbear about the fact that it's called a learning difference or a learning difficulty. I'm not going to go into it again, but that is fundamentally, and potentially it's only fundamentally an issue because of the way our education system assesses our pupils. Actually, in later life, somebody who's very practical will go on and they will do extremely well in a practical job and they could be massively happy and successful. We don't necessarily judge our pupils on only practical assessments, and therefore somebody that has a big strength in practical subjects is at a disadvantage in an education setting in that way, unless they're doing very practical subjects. So actually, having a special educational need can be a real gift sometimes. Often pupils with dyslexia are amazingly creative and they have amazing reasoning and problem solving skills. My husband is dyslexic. My brother is dyslexic. Both of them are in really practical jobs, very successful. And the things that my husband can visualize with a bit of machinery and turn it round, in his own mind, amaze me. I could never do that. And those are real gifts. And having, logical deduction, so being able to think through something really logically and look at it from a different point of view is an absolute real gift. Really strong reasoning skills, very practical learners quite often very good listening skills. Somebody with autism can really get into the detail and the real nitty gritty of a topic. And that absolutely is a huge strength and something we should celebrate. What's important is we have to create techniques that play to the strengths of our learners. So if we know they learn really well by doing something, then their revision should be them doing it, role-playing it. Role-playing a conversation, playing a game, walking around a house and recalling information within each room from the topic. We need to involve movement in there. And that's an example of playing to the strength of the learner. Okay, so first phase is the prep phase. So bear with me. I would have liked to show you exactly how to do this kind of in person. But if you like this and I can explain it well enough, we could certainly do another workshop on it. And I could actually show you exactly what it's like when I'm drawing it and doing it as a demo. I could demo it effectively. So let me know in the chat if that's something you'd like to see in the next few weeks, and we can set that up. So this is the prep phase of revision. So support pupils to have a full overview of their revision. I'm an absolute stickler for this. Lots of people think I'm a bit mad because I go on and on about it. But for me, if I'm going to start revising, I need to know exactly how much I've got to revise. I need the overview because otherwise I don't know how long it's going to take me. And I need to know how long it's going to take me so that I feel motivated, that I know where I am in the process, how long it's going to take, and what, more importantly, when I will get to the end. That's very, very important for a motivation level. Now, we assume all the time, I believe, as adults, that pupils and children and young people know, just like that, how to organise themselves. And that can't be true. I now consider myself to be an organised person. But reverse 10 years, I wasn't as organised then as I am now. And I certainly didn't have a clue when I was 14, 15, 16. But yet as adults, we often see the world through our own lens, and therefore we think that pupils know how to organise themselves. And often they just don't. Some do, some don't. So we need to make that assumption and show that, how to become organised. I hear a lot of pupils say to me that they're going to open a book, their biology book, and they're just going to start revising. But my question is, well, how do you know where that topic is in the scheme of work? How do you know where you are in the scheme of work? And how can you be motivated if you don't know? So that often makes them think. So they do need help with a system, and they need help with organising a system and setting it up. Having a system increases motivation and determination. So if you can get a pupil to buy into the idea that they've got to get organised and you're going to help them do that, you could explicitly show how to do this. So for example, we work a lot on Microsoft Teams privately, and I would, share links to A4 binders or boxes that I think the pupils would benefit from owning, or I would show them the sort of thing they can look around for in their house that will help them to get organised. I will say to them, do you have a place to do your work? Sometimes they'll say, well, I do it on the dining room table. It's not ideal, really. Really, you do need a space where you can set up your boxes and you can set up what you're doing in terms of revision. You need to have, plans on the wall of what you're doing so that you can keep up with where you are. I would give them links to things like revision cards, the A5 cards on Amazon. I would give them links to highlighter pens. I would give them those bits of equipment if I had plenty. I would give them sticky notes. I would say to them, look, get organised and buy yourself some colour pens. And I would say, come back to me next week and show me what you've got me, because then suddenly the onus is on them and they'll take responsibility for that. Then once they've got set up with equipment, I would help them to get an overview so they can gain insight into the full work that's required to get full and thorough revision done. So, for example, I would say, right, you need to get a grasp of all of the topics in each subject. Now, at that point, most pupils will say, Miss, there's a lot. Yeah, there is a lot. But would you have known there was a lot unless you got an overview of all the topics within each subject? And it's really important to get organised. It's that, poor preparation leads to poor performance. That is so key when it comes to revision. So early on, preferably, beginning of year 11 or even at the end of year 10, enable your pupils to get, or any other exams, SATs or anything else, enable your pupils to get organised. So ask, for example, teachers to give a topic list per subject. I do this quite often. And then I say to my pupils, right, let's look at the topic list. Don't worry about the content and how much there is. Let's just use a traffic light system. So I want you to put a red, amber or green dot next to the topic name. Green is, I totally know this topic. I'd be able to write about it all day long. Amber is, I'm not that sure about it. And red is, I don't have a clue. Go through and categorize your individual topics within each subject so that you've got a list, an A4 list of your content. And then you can see in a snapshot, it would only take you 15, 20 minutes to work through. You just have to look very quickly. What do I know? What do I not know? And then at the end of that period, you would have lots of reds on there, or some green, some amber, some red, and you can keep revisiting this system. But the red is what you need, the topics you need to start with your learning, because the red dot next to a topic name would actually give you the most impact in your revision. So the red topics are the ones you know nothing about. Well, if you start with the reds, then suddenly you can really start to make progress. So it's the best way to do it. And that will also enable a rough revision timetable to be created as well. So in terms of processing information, this is still the prep phase. Promote the highest level of processing of information. So it needs to be multi-sensory revision. Teach headlines. So go through, for example, a topic and demo to the pupil how to summarize key information, model the skill. Again, it's an assumption we make that pupils know how to do that. Actually show them how to summarize key information, write down the headlines on an A4 piece of paper. You could use, to make it multisensory, you could use Microsoft Read Aloud to support the listening while reading the text. If you use Microsoft Edge as your browser, you can actually do Read Aloud on anything online on the internet. So you could be listening to it as it's read and as you read it too. Now that is true multisensory learning. And then use things like BBC Bite Size for short video-based learning. There's all sorts of different apps that we can use. So really, really important to promote multisensory revision. As I've mentioned, it's really important to create a product from revision. So don't just sit down thinking to yourself, right, I am going to start revising. Open the book and just start reading. That's no good for any pupil. So when they sit down to revise, you need to encourage them to create a product. And what is that product? Well, in this case, there are a variety, and some of them you've mentioned already. So revision cards, a mind map, which could be on a revision card, a song, a mnemonic, a rhyme, a story, an image, a drawing, or a visual map. It could be a recording of their voice, but a product has to be created from the revision. And then demonstrate the prep phase. So talk to them about how to get organised, help them to create the system. Don't assume they know how to create a timetable. I would encourage you not to suggest that they do a whole timetable for 6 to 8 weeks or whatever it is, if it's a formal public exam, because that creates a heap of pressure and life happens. And actually, if you've got an overview of the topics, you can just go through your red ones and then work on your amber topics and then finish with your green and just go back to your red. And actually, it creates less pressure if we don't make it very, very formal. I just think we should be encouraging an hour and a half to 2 hours, maybe on an evening on the run up to exams, if they don't have any other homework or something like that, depending on the age. Obviously, I'm talking very much sort of GCSE A level here. Don't assume that they know how to organise their notes, and don't assume that they will revise effectively. Discuss what works for them. And anytime you hear people saying, I've just read through my notes, miss, please massively challenge that.